Hello everybody, this is Dr. Novak again. In this video, we're going to discuss physics, engineering, and wares that are built into aquariums and how wares actually benefit the hobbyist more so than not. And in this video, I'm going to show you with a above tank filter just exactly how resistance works with our filters and how wares work with our filters. The benefits they give are far supersede of what you ever thought they would give us. But this is going to be dealing with, of course, engineering and physics. And if you're not into engineering, if you're not going to be into physics, this video will probably be very boring for you of everything I'm going to explain to you. And you may want to go watch a different video right now. But if you want to find out something about engineering, about the laws of physics and how they apply to this aquarium trade, and why maybe that filter you're using isn't pumping the output it's supposed to, then continue watching. The filter you were looking at here is what they call a overhead power wet dry filter, and you can buy these on the internet. They come from China, and they still make them, and they're adjustable. Here, this is adjustable for bigger tanks. You can put it lengthwise or you can put it vertically, widthwise, and it doesn't matter which way you want to run it. But I bought this a long time ago. I've owned this for years and years and years. But it's a good learning tool. I use this to teach people because it's so easy to set up. And you can if you buy one of these, you could use it actually as a polishing filter. And all you have to do is wind up going to a Joann's or something like that and buy denser filtering material and cut it to size to put in here, very dense, and let the thing stir up your aquarium, gravel, whatever, and this thing will literally just polish your aquarium. And for the price, it isn't bad. You can use it as an all-around filter, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I kind of use it because it pumps about 250 gallons an hour, so I kind of use this as a polishing filter and put special floss and stuff in here, and then you just let it run until it doesn't run anymore. And I'll show you everything about that. So we're going to explain a little bit about physics here and engineering. It comes with a lid, so when you actually run it, I'll turn it on. It kind of holds back some of the noise and, of course, the splashing. And, of course, like I said, I use this for a polishing filter by putting very fine DLS material in here and let it run. So, but I use this as a learning tool for people because it is an excellent filter to show. First of all, what you're looking at right here, of course, is a weir. And that's a built-in weir. So when you put your filter floss in here and it begins to fill up and becomes clogged, it will just flow over the weir into the exit tube here. And then you know it can't allow any more. It's not going to filter anymore. It's gravity, so it's not pulling it in. It's gravity. But the thing I want to show you right now, I have it set up, and I want to show you something about physics that a lot of people don't understand. This pumps 250 gallons an hour, but does it really pump 250 gallons an hour? The truth is no. And even though this is a very short stem pump, it's powerful, it's above the aquarium, as you can see there. Okay, the pump here, and this should have the least amount of resistance. And let me pull that pump up and even show you See, it's above tank pump. So this pump should have the least amount of resistance. Because here's your impeller, and look at the distance between here. It's very short. No more than, I would say, 4.5 to 5 inches where it hits the impeller already. So this is a good demonstration tool for people to see just exactly why your pump never is going to pump what the manufacturer says. So it's got the tube on it, the siphon tube that we all use, and it sucks up and comes out here and comes out the spout. It just hooks up very easily. Now I'm going to turn it on for you. Okay. This is running with the siphon on it. And look at this part of the filter right here. This part right here. I'll get my fingers out of the way. This part right here. Watch this part. Now this is using a filter. Now imagine if this was a canister filter or hang on the back filter. It would run basically the same way. Canister would be sucking in the water, but we all use a siphon tube, right? And if you would look at it, say, well, this is running pretty good. It's running 250 gallons an hour. But keep your eye on this part, especially. See if anything changes. Now, it's rated at 250 gallons an hour, but it is not pumping 250 gallons an hour. And this is a completely empty filter. There's nothing, as you can see, hindering the water here. There's nothing hindering the flow. But yet, it still is not pumping the 250 gallons an hour like it's supposed to. And this is what happens with brand new filters. Whether it's a canister filter or a hang on the back filter. The same laws of physics apply, and engineering applies to both of them. Now I'm going to turn it off and I'm going to remove the filter cap. So now the only variable is removing this cap. That's all I'm changing. Removing one simple little cap like this. I'll put this off to the side, and now we're going to replace it with no cap on it, no siphon. Now watch what happens. Notice the difference here of the water now building up here. Because we now have taken away resistance from this cap, we have taken all the resistance away, and it is flowing now at the correct 250 gallons an hour. And if you look at it, it is flowing faster. Yet I've done nothing to it except remove the resistance that we apply to our aquariums. When you put one of these caps on your canister filter or your hang on the back filter, you now apply resistance. And without resistance, look at it. It's actually splashing and everything. And look at how the water is actually building up at the very end here. So just that little bit of, and imagine if you took this now, what hobbyists don't understand, if you took this and you put a sponge over it, you would add even more resistance to your filter, and it would slow it down even more. So this is the reason why whenever you buy a filter, canister filter or anything, this is the reason why you must apply and buy something bigger, because you can always slow down a filter, but you can't speed it up, as I've said before in my last video. And this is proof positive here that if you look at this compared to the way it was running, there's a big difference. Now we are running this without resistance, and look how much water now is pouring through here compared to when it did have resistance. So now I'm going to take you over and I'm going to explain to you about the weir that is connected to my SCA aquarium, or any aquarium for that fact. But right here is proof positive to everybody. Anytime you put something onto your canister filter or filter, once you put one of these on, you're not going to get the outflow. So it's kind of like manufacturers are tricking the hobbyists into thinking that if they're buying a 210 gallon per hour, or 250 or 300, you're not really going to get that. Once you put this on, and once you put resistance on, it's even going to flow even slower yet, unless you have a pump, like I explained in my last video, like a walkie, that's able to take a bunch of head pressure and has the capability of going against that resistance. But I'm going to show you something now that will maybe help you make a decision on the next aquarium you wish to buy. And hopefully this video will help you. Okay, so here we are. I'm showing you the weir of this particular SCA aquarium. And as you can see, it has slits in it. And this is the outlet tube. So there's one here and there's one on the other side. And of course inside this weir is the heater. This is the inlet to refill. This is to the UV light I'm using. This over here is your temperature probe, and this is your on-off float switch to refill the aquarium with this. Anyhow, using a weir on aquarium is far better than not using aquarium with a weir. We've been convinced that we should buy tanks that have no weirs on them. In fact, manufacturers will sell tanks with weirs, and the same manufacturer will sell a tank without. And they like to say, well, one's for salt water, one's for fresh water. But to be honest with you, there's great benefits in using an aquarium that uses a weir. First of all, the strainer part is being done by the weir itself, by the openings, as you can see here. They're only so wide and they're only going to allow so much to come in. This one has a lid on it so fish can't jump into it, snails can't crawl into it, or anything else. Down at the very bottom of the weir, of course, you can't see it, but there are the openings. There are 3 openings. There are 2 openings for the exit and 1 opening for the return, which is this. And I'll show you underneath the aquarium how I did it. If you're thinking, and if you're on the fence about, oh, I'm going to buy a new tank, and I know you can buy tanks as small as 40 gallons with weirs built in them, buy one with a weir. And I'll tell you why. Because see, the weir fills up. And actually, when the weir fills up full of water, it causes pressure. So this one, because it's 24 inches deep, you could say the water inside this weir is at least, let's say, 20 inches deep. All right. And that is going to cause pressure. And you have a opposing force now going down. The water is causing that opposing force, and it's actually going to push the water that's in the weir into your canister filter. Instead of, like, let's say a canister filter that has to pull water through the strainer and through the tubing and however long it is, you're going to have help by actually having water being pushed into it, your canister filter, and it's going to take the labor off the impeller. So the impeller and the whole thing runs. This is that's the automatic fill running right now. It only runs for a few seconds. It keeps it. Now, you're thinking, yeah, well, if I get an aquarium with a weir, then I'm going to have an autofill. Autofills are like $50. You can buy the pump, you can buy the float switch. They give you everything. This one is a Tunzi, which was expensive, but you can buy autofills for half the price, like $50. Come on, they're not that expensive. Then you can put up a bucket, you can put up an old fish tank, you can use a container, a 5-gallon drum, stick it on the side or underneath your aquarium to fill up your aquarium. It's really that simple. It's not really a hassle. Don't make it into a big, huge hassle. Always think about how easy can it be done. And of course, as you look, the Weir actually has an ultraviolet light in it. So now I don't need all kinds of tubings. I don't have to plumb it. The Weir holds that. It holds your probe, so the probe can read your temperature to your heater. That gets hidden in there. Here you got your heater. It's hidden in there. There's constantly a water flow in that heater. Plus another thing, if the electric would go out, or let's say something would happen, the Weir fills up with water and stays in there. So if the heater is plugged in, it's not going to burn out because it's still surrounded by water. So is the ultraviolet light. So when I do a water change, I shut down the main pump, right? But the Weir just fills up. I don't turn off the ultraviolet light, and I don't turn off the heater, because the Weir is going to just fill up, and that's it. It's not going to empty unless you literally disconnect it from the canister filter I have underneath. So inside the Weir are two big 1-inch holes, and I don't have any siphoning caps over those holes. Those are just open, because this is what's doing my straining. This is what's doing the straining, and because it is so big, it's like having a big, huge strainer that's almost like 18 inches long, compared to having a little round strainer in your aquarium. So if one end does clog up, it's not going to bother the rest of it. If a snail sits on it, it's not going to bother it. And the only particulate matter that's going to get through this strainer is, this looks like it's about 100 thousandths wide. So that's it. Anything under 100 thousandths will go in here. It'll go into the big 1-inch holes that are at the bottom here, and it's not going to clog anything up. So you don't have to worry about, if you went away, something clogging up your little bitty strainer. So if you're going to buy a freshwater aquarium, I would definitely do it this way. Next question is, can you use a Weir with a hang on the back filter? Of course you can. You put the filter right here where the light is. Then you would have to have a hanging light, but you could literally put this with a hang on the back filter and try to have the filter vary back out in the aquarium instead of pouring back into the Weir. Otherwise, all it's going to do is just recirculate what's in the Weir. But this comes in handy. Weirs do for canister filters, or a sump. Now, a lot of people don't want sumps. They're noisy. You got to control the water. A lot more evaporation, and because of all that, for freshwater hobbies, they frown upon that. A lot of people will say, well, you're using this and this is going to gas off CO2. Yes, a little bit of CO2 is going to be gassed off. That's a known fact. But look at people's aquariums, a lot of their plant aquariums. They're using the float skimmers. They connect it up to their canister filters, and it's a little float. And there's always problems with those floats, where here, if it was sucking up something you didn't want, you could put a screen on here, and all that would do is raise the level of the aquarium. But that would help so you wouldn't be picking up small shrimp or fry or anything else. But I'm not really worried about that with this particular aquarium. But all in all, it has so many pluses that the minuses are insignificant nothingness. The biggest minus is you would have to have an auto refill, because otherwise, as the evaporation of the aquarium, but remember, the evaporation is only happening because this is an open aquarium. Remember, if this had a tight lid on it, evaporation would be no more than any other aquarium. Okay, but because it's an open top aquarium, you have more evaporation. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to show you how I hook this up so it will run. Now you're thinking that, oh, my next aquarium, should it have a weir? I would definitely highly recommend yes. You're going to be very happy because it's going to get your whole aquarium looking neater and more tidy without heaters, without you can put ultraviolet lights in them like I have here. You don't have to worry about that. Cosmetically, there's a big, huge plus. It just looks nicer. And the outlet tubes here, they give you some, but I switched it over to 1/2 inch because I want to cause more resistance on the water coming out so it's not blowing out. But if you have fish that really like the current, then of course you would use the duckbill fixtures that they give you and put that instead of using the PVC 1/2 inch pipe. That's with this particular aquarium that I wanted because it is a planted aquarium, and I want water movement, but yet I don't want water movement so hard that they're fighting upstream to put it in. So engineers for a specific reason. If you want the weir to be higher than this, you would move this up higher. This is your float switch. And then the float switch would only turn this on when the water would sink beyond this. This is the way I want it. If you want it to even have less movement, you can design it with less movement by just moving the float switch up. And this then will become higher and have less movement in the weir, because actually it could go higher. So that would depend on the hobbyist on how they want the weir to work. But because it's just constantly skimming, it's skimming everything off the top, and you don't have to worry about a little bitty, round skimmer like this. And if a snail gets in there or something, it clogs it up, then it doesn't work, and then they start sucking in air. They can start sucking air in. They're just a big, big hassle. I've had zero problems with this weir clogging or having a snail crawl on it or anything else. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's dead silent. You hear nothing. The biggest thing you hear with this aquarium is, the bubbler. If I didn't have that bubbler, this aquarium would be dead quiet. So now I'm going to take you to the bottom. Now remember, this has almost 2 foot of water making pressure going down and adding that pressure to the canister filter. So now we are looking here at the bottom of the aquarium, and here's the 1-in exit tubes. These are going to the green tube, which is your intake to the canister filter. Because these come together, how I put them together, this is your exit or your return water to the aquarium, the clear tube, and the green tube at the bottom is your exit for the water coming out. Now, you have water in the weir, plus this fills up with water too. And this is going to be pushing water inside the green tube. It's actually, because of gravity, going to force that 2 gallons of water in here, just like it does if you had a sump, okay? But it's connected up to the canister filter, all right? The whole thing about this is that when you look at the canister filter here and you look at this, you're actually going to be pushing water down. So when the pump is running, gravity itself, instead of, if you think about it, if you put a hose in your aquarium and it's got a U bent to it, it's got to actually bring it through a siphon and then bring it into your canister filter, correct? Well, with this, you're actually pushing the water into the canister filter. So if I were to have a completely empty canister, because the water in here has force to it, it actually will fill up the canister automatically on its own just by disconnecting the quick disconnect to this outlet tube. And it will push all the air out and fill up the canister automatically. That's another advantage of having a Weir. You will automatically have your filters fill where you don't have to worry. That's the pump going to fill the Weir up, you know, with the float switch. That's how the Tunzi pump sounds. It's a little loud. Anyhow, so that's because of just the pressure alone is making this fill up. Now I know you can start a siphon, but a siphon isn't, it's pulling water, not pushing water. Here you're pushing water, you're actually pushing it through, and there's weight behind it due to the height, okay, and due to that it's at least about a gallon, 2 gallons. This one's about 2 gallons of water in that Weir. So you have that weight continuously pushing down. And if you remember physics, water, right, it doesn't matter how big the container is. Like this is, the Weir is like, let's say 2 gallons. It has the same pressure as the entire aquarium of 90 gallons. Okay, so that same pressure that's applying to this 90-gallon tank is the same pressure that's in the Weir itself. It doesn't change. That's physics. Okay, this was explained a long time ago by a David Poole from the United Kingdom, where he explained pressures. Dr. David Poole, where he said, like in an aquarium, if you had an aquarium that was, let's say, 30 inches by 30 inches, it would have the same pressure on the seams as an aquarium that would be only 1 foot by 1 foot. You would have the exact same pressure. Okay, that's what you have here. You have the exact same pressure here as you have in the aquarium. So that helps push the water through the Weir into your pump. So what that benefits us using a canister filter is that because water is being pushed in and not actually has to be drug in, you know, you understand, with a U, that's only a siphon. It's only going to go so fast. We all know that. You got to go with bigger and bigger diameter tubes in order to get more siphon. Because this is being pushed in, it makes it easier on the impeller to the aquarium pump to have less resistance to push the water back out again, back into the aquarium. So a Weir benefits you there, because if you do have a small tank, let's say 40, 50 gallons, and it has a Weir, you can hook it up this way, and your pump will have less resistance, therefore it will run faster, okay, than if you draped it over the side of the aquarium using a lily pipe or using whatever you're going to use, and then you put a strainer on that pipe. It's going to start slowing down and slowing down and slowing down. Here you have eliminated the resistance once again right here, because pressure is being forced in there constantly, and you have eliminated the resistance, and therefore the pump is going to put out what it's supposed to. The only resistance the pump now has to go is the resistance in this tube here of pushing it back into the aquarium. So you will get more output, more, what can I say, bang for your buck. If you bought, I'm giving this example, if you bought a Fluval, let's say you were using this aquarium and you bought a Fluval 4 or a Fluval 6, you would actually have more output using this than you would using a strainer. It would, because you have eliminated the resistance on this green tube, because the water is actually being forced down that, because the same force applies here as it applies in the aquarium. Even though the aquarium is 24 inches high, the force is the same whether you have 2 gallons of water or you have 90 gallons of water. The force is the same, exactly the same. So that is helping that part. So you see a lot of people when they go on the internet and you can buy an aquarium. Let's say, I'm just using this as an example. You can buy whenever let's say you buy one of these SCA aquariums, that if you do hook your Fluvo 4 or 6 up to it, you are going to get more output by using a weir and hooking it up this way and just put your quick disconnects onto your hoses than you would if you used a siphon tube and then put a strainer onto it. And with this, usually the intake are usually a little bigger. This is all 5/8 tubing on this particular one, where the intake is actually 3/4. Okay, but because 3/4 tubing is so big, and just to buy a Eheim quick disconnect valve for 3/4, it's over $100 for a valve like that. And I thought, no, I already have a bunch of these 5/8 Eheim quick disconnects that I'll just make it a 5/8 because of the fact this is pushing into this all by itself. So you're going to eliminate a lot of your resistance. So that's it on the video. If you're thinking about buying an aquarium like this, whether you have saltwater or freshwater, especially if you have freshwater, we're kind of told to not spend the extra money. It's not needed. It's going to save you a few bucks. But I'm going to really suggest to you, if you are going to buy a new aquarium, a show aquarium, and have it in your home or whatever, this is the way to go. They're dead silent. Believe me, like I said, if I didn't have the bubbler, this thing would make zero sound. You couldn't hear anything. It would run so silent. And I think that's what we want. The next thing is, eventually, if you're going to try to skim off a film on top of your aquarium, then you're going to be changing things onto your intake with one of those teeth siphons. They float up and down, the siphon does, and they can get clogged very easily with a leaf, snail, anything can clog them, and then they'd be sucked down, and it could suck in even air into your canister. Using this, because I've used them before, Lee's is the maker I used. If you use something like this and just spend a little extra bucks, you're going to have zero problems. I mean, I've been away on vacation, zero problems. I come back, everything's running fine. And like I said, just order yourself a $50 refill kit for your automatic top off, they call it. It costs like $50, and that's not that expensive. Then you can put a bucket of water in there. You can put a 5-gallon bucket of water, 2.5-gallon bucket of water if you want. What I use over here, right here, this is a 5-gallon, but it comes in 5, I think 10 and 15-gallon if you want to buy it, spend the money. I didn't see the reason to, but I hope this kind of helps you understand that when manufacturers make these pumps, they kind of, I'm just going to say it the way it is, they kind of cheat the hobbyists. They kind of mislead the hobbyist. They give the highest number they can, and you're not going to pump anything near that. And we here in the United States like high-powered pumps. We like to move our water and clean it and polish it. That's just the way we are. And this is one way of doing it. Like I said, my 90-gallon aquarium, it looks like it's being polished. It just is that clean the water looks because of the big canister. And if you're going to have a big canister, and you don't have to buy the 88, whether or not you're going to use the Fluvos, the Eheims, or the Sunset, that's strictly up to you and your budget. Hooking it up this way, you're going to come out with more output, more closer to what the manufacturer say. As you load it up, of course, that is going to cut down, but you have no choice. You have to load up the filters according to the way the manufacturer recommends or what they're providing for you. But otherwise, that's what separates the 80A canister filter here, the 80A canister filter here. That's what separates this filter, of course, from other filters, is the pump. And like I said in my last video, it's like a $600 pump just alone. So you may look at the price of this filter and say, wow, it's so much more, but the pump alone costs about as much as a Fluval, because it does have such high amount of head it can take, and it's really hard to slow them down and lose a lot of your head pressure, because they take, this one I think takes 15 or 17 feet of head. That's quite a lot of head pressure. So there is a advantage and disadvantage. It does run hot, but so now you understand that the little bit of the physics that are behind Weirs, why maybe your next aquarium should have a weir. If you're going to buy one, I would just buy one with a weir and hook it up to your canister filter like this. I'm going to be honest with you. I'd really highly recommend this. This is really a lot nicer than using, of course, a siphon tube, because I've had siphon tubes clog up on me and everything else. And don't forget, you got surface area, right? A weir is bigger. You got 18 inches of water coming into that weir, where you may have, what, 3 inches in circumference around a siphon, and that's it, of sucking in water. Where here you have 18 inches of it grabbing water and bringing it into your canister filter to help clean the aquarium. So that's a no-brainer. Sure, if you had a siphon that was, let's say, the bigger the siphon gets, we know we can't do that, because as the siphon gets bigger and bigger, it will become less and less as it sucks in. Okay, that's physics. So manufacturers try to make the siphon small enough so it still has that suction coming into the siphon into your canister, if you understand what I mean. When you use a weir, it's a constant coming in. So if you're pumping 475 gallons an hour, that weir is pumping in 475 gallons an hour, but it's pumping it over the 18 inches or however your weir is, compared to a little bitty siphon that's only pumping maybe in diameter. It could be, let's say, 1 inch in diameter. Okay, and if you made that real big, there would be, dirt would just fly right by the intake and not even be sucked up, because then there would be no resistance. And that's what manufacturers want. They, like I showed you with the pump, once you put on that siphon cap, you got resistance and it will suck in stuff to it. But if that siphon cap, imagine if it was 6 inches or 8 inches in diameter, you wouldn't have that. Something would float by it and wouldn't even suck it in, because it would be sucking from so much area that you would lose the ability of the siphon to really siphon up a lot of particulate matter, and it would wind up having just to lay on the bottom of the aquarium or get stuck where your plants are and all. Where if you're using a weir, you got all that water coming in over a bigger distance, and therefore you will have a cleaner aquarium because of that. Okay, so until next time, this is Dr. Novak. Thank you for watching.